Hello, this is Mary Jane. I'm here to talk about my database. I decided to do mine on my personal photography collection. I really wanted to do this for a while, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to get started with it. So my abstract is this database's purpose is to create easy and fast access to my personal fine art photography collections data. The physical collection contains 11 full clamshell binders totaling 470 sleeves and roughly 6,000 negatives. The digital collection is still to be organized, but so far totals 900 high-res film scans. By adding metadata to these objects, I can create statistics and information about them. I also will be able to understand my artistic process better by being able to quantify subjects, film stocks used, and productivity in terms of when and where I was most active. This project will likely require additional time past the confines of this class, but will allow for data input thanks to a lovely HTML site. So, the mission of this database is to connect the physical and digital collection and attach simple metadata for indexing. Once there are firm naming conventions established, it will make access, storage, and digitization easier. Making sure that I had established like unique identifiers for each binder, sleeve, and negative was important to me because it would hopefully establish a more consistent naming convention. I had one pretty well established, but making it more firm and something that I can kind of adhere to will help me moving forward. So that was another one of the goals of this assignment. So some of the objectives, I'll just read a few. Facilitate easy access to materials by having a naming system that makes sense and is consistent. Um, Manage collection information so it's organized in each binder. And then some business rules. Every negative must have a sleeve. Every sleeve must have a binder. So everything has its home, basically. Each negative sleeve and binder can be assigned one unique identifier, respectively. And for the prints, contact sheets, and digital scans, nulls will be allowed because there isn't necessarily one for each object. There might not be a contact sheet for every single sleeve. So in this case, nulls would be appropriate. Here's a little view of my relationship diagram. My table schema with my foreign keys and primary keys. And then we get on to my forms. So I chose to go with 12 different spots to input one negative because I mostly shoot with a medium format camera. So 12 would generally cover all my bases, even if I had to scratch one out or something. So if it were the case that I shot 35mm roll and it had 36 exposures, I would just use multiple sheets to represent one. And that's why I did on the top the sheet of kind of thing where you can note how many sheets total it took for you to write the metadata or come up with metadata for each individual negative. So this is the second sheet, and it goes across. And then here's a sample of one filled out. Now I just highlighted instead of circling, but get the gist on that. Again, like I said before, there potentially would be some nulls if there wasn't a print for it or if there wasn't contact sheet that represented something. So just keep that in mind. And then here's the final database diagram. And then where I go into the normal forms and how it fits to their normal form. And then, oh, we'll cheat and we'll head back and take a look at the website. Okay, so here it is. I chose in terms of looks, I chose to keep it really simple and not get too fancy with things. I just wanted it to kind of be elegant and have exactly what we needed. So I just have a little like why this is here. And then there's a link to my personal website. If you want to see more of my work, you can click that there. Here, we'll click, it opens in a new tab. Enter, and then you can scroll through and see some of the pics. But we're gonna head back to this one. So something that I did that was just a pretty simple select statement was I just selected each table. I did a select all for each table that I have so that the data can just be viewed very simply. So you can return home, you can do it for binders, you can see 11 binders. For prints, you can kind of just get an idea. If you want to just look at a quick link into something, just to say, oh, how many inkjet prints do I have and what size are they? But if you're looking to do something a little bit more robust, what we can do is we can search for sleeves within binder by year. So if you wanted to see what sleeves were shot in a specific year, and this would tell you what binder you could find them in. So let's put 2014, and then we can see, oh, oop, clicked the wrong thing. Here, let's try a different year. I don't know if 2017, yeah, no binders from that year. So then we could find images, find image numbers in specific sleeves. So if we grab this first one right here, we can see that this is the sleeve ID for the first 35mm sleeve that I have. And we can see that there's only 3 images in that sleeve. Now the data is a little bit small on this just because time kind of limited me on how much information I could put in for each sleeve. But we can check a different one. See, we have 2 in that one. Now this would be large format. There's 35mm medium format, which is MD, and large format, which is LF. And then this one's pretty useful. This is if I want to see where different film stocks live within the collection. So each one, I don't know if you're familiar with film photography at all, but each film stock kind of represents has a different quality. So Kodak, let's see, for example, these are black and white films down here. The Ilford, the Kodak Tri-X, T-Max, and the Fuji color is like a pretty basic, like one you could buy at a drugstore. But my favorite is Kodak Portra 400. It's a pretty great film stock. It's color, is really great with skin tones. So here we go. We can see all the films that are Kodak Portra 400 and the different sleeves that they live in. So let's try that again with like Tri-X. So a lot of large format Tri-X, because black and white large format is significantly cheaper. Okay. And then this one's kind of fun. An important thing for me was to kind of give some structure to the unstructured data in the images. So the people that are in them it's not something that is easy to quantify, like without like facial recognition technology or something, but I don't have that yet. So I'd have to go through and manually put everything in, but I thought it was fun to kind of see where different pictures of different people live. So I think Karen's got 1. And then I think Helen's in here too. Yep, she's got 1. So that was a fun one too. And then, so there also are digital file scans represented in the database. So if we wanted to see where, say we found a file and we wanted to see where it lived in the physical collection, we would take the file name. This one is seat.tiff, and then we could see that, oh, that lives in binder 5, sleeve MD0180. So this is probably one of the more helpful ones. It'll probably take a long time to actually put in all of the scans that I have, but this is going to be probably the most helpful out of all the queries. And now we get into the add, remove, and modify items. So the add is pretty simple. If we wanted to add some information or add a sleeve to this database, we could do, for this one, I'm going to do just a slightly different naming convention so it makes it easier to find in this example. So I'll do T for test, MD0182 test. We'll do in binder 1. And the year created, we'll do 2020. So then we submit query and the record was added. So, oh, and also something, this leads back to the home. So if we were to go to, oh, I looked in the wrong one. That's why we're going to go to sleeves. There we go. It's right here. Silly me. So there we go. It lives in 2020. I'm sorry about that. And then if we want to remove items, I ended up doing it for the kind of quality of the contact prints that I put in. So this might be helpful if there's some kind of damage to them or a big grouping of them. You could say, okay, well, none of them exist where they're good anymore or great anymore. So you could just take all of them that say great and remove all of them that say great. So head home. See, now none of them are there that say great. Turn home. And then if we wanted to modify, this one would be very helpful too. So we put in, for example, if we wanted to modify some basic information like the film type and stuff, if we put in the wrong one by accident, we'll change this one to good old Kodak Ultra 400. We'll say this one has a database in it. First name, let's do Oprah. We'd all want to photograph Oprah. So then the image ID, we'll just do 1. So this is how you update data in my database. So the image ID needs to stay the same because that's what's going to be the linking number to connect it to the rest of that information. So our record was updated successfully. So go here, and then if we wanted to go to negatives, you'll see that Oprah's here, and it's perfect. So let's take a look at SQL and see some of the queries that we have in here. So we have image ID, date created, paper inkjet, which is the type of paper that the inkjet prints were printed on, and then the darkroom print ID. So from here, we can see that they're joined together, and the result leaves us to see with this image, it was created in 2013. We can see that there's a hot press bright paper inkjet print, and then we can see the darkroom print ID. So we can go find that if necessary. So we know that exists in 2 spots. Then we can see that, this one, for example, only has a darkroom print. This one, this one has both as well, etc. So there's a lot more darkroom prints than there are inkjet prints in this situation. So then we head over here and we see the binder ID, the sleeve ID, the image ID, and then the subject first name, subject last name. This is probably one of the more helpful queries as well because it lets us know who exactly by their first and last name is in an image and where does it live. So let's run this guy. And we can see Oprah's in here still. She's in that first binder, first image, first sleeve. So our first picture is of Oprah. And we can see all these people right here. This one right here is my dog. Oh, and my other dog. So run through, we can see that there's a ton of them. And then if we do this one is image ID, film stock, and scanner. So in this instance, we would run this because if we want to see what particular scanner and film stock yielded this particular image. So this is helpful if you're doing a little bit of like mystery solving. Say there's like a mess up in some way on a scan, you can say, oh, is it the scanner or is it the film stock? So this might be a helpful query in that instance. So if there's an issue with of Epson V850 or image 44, you can see that it was on the V850 with Tri-X. So maybe there's an issue with one of those variables. And then this one's just a big mash of all kinds of things just to get a big chunk of information. So as we can see, we have the binder ID, the sleeve ID, the image ID, and then we can see that there's an inkjet print ID and a darkroom print ID along with the contact ID. So this is just all of the different derivatives apart from the final image scan, usually on a flex site. And so we can see, where there's some overlap in these, where there's contact prints, where there's darkroom prints, where there's inkjet prints. So it's helpful as well. And then this one is a merge of the image ID, the dimensions of the darkroom print, and the dimensions of the inkjet print, and the date that the negative was created or shot. So as you can see here, for image 1, we have both an 8x10 and an 11x14 print. The darkroom one is the 8x10, and the inkjet is 11x14. You can see a ton, but there's some overlap in some of them. And that's it. That is all the queries that I have. I hope you enjoyed looking at my website and viewing some of the queries. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks very much.